You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast. This is the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me at official Sam Little on Instagram. There's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I have two apologies right off the bat. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a bit strange. I just literally finished watching the Italy and Croatia game, and I got a little bit excited at the end there and started to yell and run around my basement because Calafiori just got an amazing assist. He faced a lot of stick online after his own goal and whatnot, saying he was a one-game wonder, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, he just really clutched up for his nation. Amazing run from him, puts the ball, and then I can't remember who the teammate was, scores it. But yeah, really great game. The Euros is so special. Hoping for more of that in the Copa America, which is what I will be talking about now. And on for my second apology, I'm very sorry that Argentina-Canada is coming at you a little bit later than I would have liked. Essentially, the game finished on Thursday night, and I was away all weekend, away from my laptop, away from everything, so didn't have the chance to record. I've taken my notes still, and we're good to go here on my end. I hope you're good to go now. And yeah, it gave me a lot of time to sit and think about the performance. And I also, before I start, want to say, if you are one of the people that is racially abusing Bombito, you need to take a long look at yourself in the mirror. Go outside, get your head screwed on straight. What are you doing? Like, it's 2024. We should be so past this. UEFA, FIFA, all the other federations, CONCACAF, everyone needs to really crack down on this. It's beyond ridiculous and inhumane at this point. You know, these are people. They're people, and that's, I think, where it begins and ends. Everyone's a person. You know, I don't know. Just get your head screwed on straight. I don't know what you're doing. Everyone here in Canada who does have their head screwed on straight is backing Bombito. He's a great talent, seems like a great guy, and, you know, he doesn't deserve none of that. So all positive thoughts for him, and no one should have to deal with this. Like I said, it's 2024. Like, come on. But with that being said, let's talk about Argentina 2, Canada 0. So, going to start off with a quote I've been hearing a lot. Lots of lessons learned. And I'm starting to think these lessons learned are we can push to compete with some of the best, but never truly beat them. We play good enough defensively. Our keeper comes up clutch. We start to attack, but waste our chances and then either lose or draw if we're lucky. Which, hey, we face defending Copa champs and World Cup champs. So, I mean, it's not like they were some random guys. Like, this was always going to be an uphill task. But I'm still proud of these boys and this program and how far it's come in the last 6 or 7 years. And it definitely says something that fans are starting to feel disappointed when we don't get results in these games. And we're starting to expect more from these boys because we know that they're capable of more. And we know that they're capable of getting that win or a hard-earned draw, instead of, you know, a loss or a draw because the other team just couldn't finish. So it's good to see the tide kind of turning on now. We want more, we're expecting more, and I think that's good for us, the program, and the players. If everyone starts to expect more, then in theory, we can actually push for more. Another big problem I had is scoring. We have had 3 games now under Jesse Marsch, 0 goals. Yes, once again, opposition is first in the world, Argentina, second in the world, France, and 7th, Netherlands. So once again, obviously, it's not going to be a cakewalk to score these goals, but we did have our chance in these games, and we have to convert them. It's at this top level. When you're playing these good teams, it is frustrating when you have your chances and you're not scoring. You can put out all the stats you want. The most important stat will always be the one at the end of the game, who had more goals than the other. Put out possession, put out passes completed, XG, whatever else you want to put out. The most important stat is the W. That's my opinion. And once again, we have to start demanding more from our players. If we're going to set up and play more defensively and try to cherry pick our moments to strike, that's great, but we have to make those moments count. And over the last few games, we haven't. We're now seeing these missed chances costing us. Now, once again, this isn't just a Marsh problem. We were having this problem under Herdman at the tail end of his tenure. And obviously, he can't put the ball in the back of the net. He does have some class attackers, and they should have some goals. So we will have to see what Chile and Peru offer us, and if we can score against them. And if we're still on 0 goals come the end of our Copa run, then I think serious questions need to start being asked. And then defensively, I think we set up well and look good. It's where we're our strongest, I feel, but the problem is our good defense doesn't mean a whole ton if our attackers can't finish. But the attackers are also so far back that when we attack, they got to run the entire length of the field. So it's kind of give and take here a little bit. And that's just what I find, at least. It's just challenging. Our problem is our attack is too far back to defend to help our boys in the back. But then when we finally get into a position to attack, they don't finish. It's great to defend, great, but if we can't finish, then our defenders putting in absolute shift feels just a little bit wasted. And now I'm going to take a look at our players more in depth, go player by player, and we're going to start from back to front. And of course, starting off strong with our goalkeeper, who is definitely our man of the match, and I think impressed a lot of people once again. Every time he's given a chance for the boys in red, he takes it, and he took it against Argentina. Portland Timbers' Max Crepeau got the nod ahead of Dane St. Clair, and he proved Jesse Marsh's decision to be right. Yes, he did concede 2 goals, but he was unreal. 7 saves in total. He looked confident and assured, making a big save on Di Maria early on, keeping it 0-0, which could have totally changed the game if that had gone in. A couple more one-on-one chances with Messi followed, where Crepeau got the better of the 8-time Ballon d'Or winner. No small feat, if you ask me. Both goals weren't on him, and even if they were, I think he would have earned enough goodwill in the bank for Canadians to not put the loss on his head. It was a proper performance from Canada's presumably new number 1 between the sticks. He'll be one to watch over our next 2 group games. I think he's earned the opportunity, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Once again, definitely Canada's man of the match. And now looking at our back line with Alistair Johnston. I keep doing that. I'm sorry, Alistair Johnston. I always say Johnson the first time I say his name. I don't know why. Anyways, Alistair Johnston. See, I'm going to make up for it now. I thought it was a solid performance from Canada's top right back. He is just so solid for us. No, it wasn't his best performance, but he really did keep guys like Di Maria and DePaul pretty quiet and kept their impact to a minimum. Yes, Di Maria had that chance, but that wasn't even on Johnston. Canada was caught in the counter following a corner. I also thought he was actually really good attacking outlet. He made some great runs and played some nice passes in behind the Argentine defense. He got forward a few times as well and put the ball in the box, but no one could capitalize. So once again, it wasn't a classic performance from Alistair Johnston, but it was definitely a very solid one, I would say. Looking at his fullback counterpart, Canada's new captain, Alphonso Davies, much like Johnston, I thought he was solid. Not a vintage Davies performance, but it wasn't his worst either. Much like Johnston, he was a creative spark for our team. He didn't get forward as much as I think he would have liked to. And I'm sure he would have caused Argentina problems because anytime he did push forward and get forward and challenge that Argentina backline, Argentina just couldn't handle him. He made a couple of nice runs in, but once again, no one capitalized. The thing with Davies is he is our best player and truly one of the best in the world. He's our first ever genuine superstar on the men's side. So he's always going to be held to a higher standard than others in this team. If he's having an all right game, people will say he's had a bad game. If he's having a good game, people will say he could have been better. He could have been great. If he's having a bad game, people will say it's a disaster class. I think he had an all right game in this case. We do need him to pick up that Bayern form for Canada, I think, or even his Canada form from around 2 years ago where he was looking unstoppable. He's our guy. He's our captain, and we need a lot from him. And hopefully in these next 2 games, we do get those vintage Davies performances. Looking at our center back partnership, starting with Bombito, I thought he was once again solid enough, but there was times when Argentina really turned up the heat and he was kind of struggling a little bit. When Messi and Alvarez really got into the groove, Bombito couldn't handle it, which obviously isn't saying much. It just proves he is human. Wow, you can't handle, at times, you can't handle a 8-time Ballon d'Or winner and still one of the best in the world. Yeah, I mean, like, in most of the best center backs of Messi's generation had their struggles. So Bombito struggling a little bit here and there, it's not really a slight on him. You know what I mean? I don't think he was as good as his performance against the French, but it was nothing to be disappointed by either. He's now rumored to have top interest from some top French sides, and Colorado Rapids are apparently just waiting on proposals. Literally just today, Fabrizio Romano reported that Lyon in Ligue 1 are looking at and heavily considering Bombito. So keep our fingers crossed on that one. These guys will only get better if they go out to Europe and get consistent minutes in the top leagues. So I'm really hoping that move ends up materializing, and if not that one of that similar stature. Looking at his center back partner, who was probably Canada's second best performer on the night, still doing Canada's number 13 proud for sure. Derek Cornelius covered a lot of ground in this game. He was winning a lot of challenges, preventing crosses from finding their man. His distribution out from the back is a pretty underrated trait of his. He helped prevent a Messi one-on-one goal as well, in that having a helping hand with Crepeau. Definitely a great performance from Canada's new 13, and it looks like these two are really starting to cement themselves as Canada's top center back pairing. It also looks like Cornelius is impressing sub-clubs, as well as it looks like Belgium and Netherlands are currently linked with the Malmo man. We're going to need him and Bombito to be at the top of their game against Peru, however, because we're going to need to keep goals out. Moving into our midfield, you got Liam Miller, Tejan Buchanan, Stefan Eustáquio, and Ishmael Kone. Liam Miller, firstly, I think he had to do a lot defensively and help out, and his work rate had to be unreal, and I think it was. I still think his interplay with Davies is a big bright spot for this team. The two of them link up very, very well together, I find. He wasn't finding a lot of joy in the attack, however. He did in spots, but not as much as he would have liked, and he never really pressured or really got a chance to truly shine in the attack. I do think it is saying something, though, that it was him that stayed on and Tejan Buchanan that was pulled off around the 55th, 60th minute for Jacob Schaffelberg. It shows that maybe it's not just your name that'll get you the minutes, but your performance, and his performance did warrant staying on. And that's how it always should be. Liam Miller is also attracting a good amount of attention from some teams in Europe, so it will definitely be worth keeping an eye on. He's a classy winger and exciting too. Still just 24. This could be a big move for him coming up, following a very strong loan move at Preston last season. But as we already mentioned him, let's talk about Tejan Buchanan, one of my favorite players in this squad. It's hard to say the Interman was anything other than a bit disappointing, much like Davies, but to a lesser extent. I think a lot is expected of Tejan Buchanan when he puts on the red for Canada. We've seen him perform against top sides in the World Cup, where he was great against Belgium and picked up an assist against Croatia, but he failed to really light it up against Argentina. I will say I don't think our style of play has suited him to this point. I feel as though it really hinders him and shackles him defensively. He can definitely do the defensive work. We've seen him do it time and time again, but this is a style. It feels like he's not allowed to express himself and his style of play in an attacking sense. He's most exciting when he's driving at players and offering us some good forward play, making things happen up the pitch, creating chances, space for the strikers of our team. So I think to get the best out of him, we have to allow him to actually attack and push forward. We simply can't shackle one of our most exciting players and one of our most talented ones to boot. But moving on from Tejan Buchanan, we'll look at our two central midfielders, and I'm going to start off by talking about our two true out-and-out midfielders in this game. They looked overrun in that midfield, and I don't think that's on them. I think that's in the way we set up. They just look so overrun. So looking at Ishmael Kone first. He impressed against the French earlier this month, and it was truly, I think, his coming of age moment and announcing himself. He has, of course, had rumors that he will be going to Roma. And yes, I won't stop mentioning this. I want it to happen so badly. So no, I won't shut up about it until it happens. But this match, I really just thought he struggled against Argentina. Like I said, he looked overrun. He wasn't afforded much time on the ball and looked totally marked out at times. Anytime he'd get the ball, he wouldn't even have time to find a passing lane. He was shut down so quickly. He couldn't drive forward with the ball all that much, control the game. It was a really tough evening for the young man. But I still expect to see a big performance from him against Peru. I think he is obviously a quality player. I just don't think the way we set him up for success. And looking at his partner in the midfield was Eustáquio. I do like the pairing of him and Kone together, if I'm being honest, but they, like I said, they just couldn't find each other and complement each other as they kind of did in that French game, and to a lesser extent in the Netherlands game as well. As I said, they were overrun. Eustáquio's whole game is controlling possession, the flow and tempo of a game, but he can't do that if he's hardly on the ball, or when he's on the ball, he's swarmed by men in blue and white. He did well, I thought, when he could. He made some big, important defensive interventions, but to get the best out of Eustáquio, we have to let him on the ball and afford him more time to control the tempo of the game. So how do we do this? In my opinion, I think we take out one of our strikers and put either Jonathan Osorio or Samuel Piette into our midfield and play more of a 3. Firstly, with Osorio, what does he give us? He lessens the defensive responsibility of Eustáquio and Kone, dividing the defensive work rate pretty evenly amongst the 3 of them, and still have guys like Miller and Buchanan to contribute in the defensive aspect, but not totally hindering them. And it doesn't give Eustáquio too much of a defensive burden to bear. A strong point of Oso's game is finding pockets of space to operate in. And what are we desperately missing? A guy that can do that, pop up into pocket of space, offer something, offer an outlet. And he just adds a little bit more balance to that midfield, lessening Kone and Eustáquio's load whilst offering some other stuff too. He's got a good ball on him. He's good in the attack. And like I said, he can operate in those spaces very, very well. Now looking at Samuel Piette, our other option, in my opinion, he's more defensive-minded than Kone and Eustáquio, and of course the aforementioned Jonathan Osorio. He would offer himself as a more deeper-lying outlet for Eustáquio when he has nowhere to pass to, in order us keeping the possession, which is what we'd want with Eustáquio. And something about Piette's game that can be utilized is that long ball capability. His distribution is so underrated. Nobody gives him the respect he deserves in that aspect. And we have guys like David, Larin, Buchanan, Davies, Miller, etc., that can run onto those passes in behind defenders. He brings a lot of balance to the midfield and makes it so our strikers, David and or Larin, or whoever else we decide to play, don't have to chip in as much defensively on that side of the pitch. And now a third pitch is, if you don't want to add in an extra midfielder, I think you have to have an extra center back, where we would either take out a striker or take out one of our wingers, and which would most likely be Liam Miller. If you're going to put in a center back, I'd go Kamal Miller, or you can put Alistair Johnston as I did it again. Alistair Johnston. I'm sorry. You'd put Alistair Johnston as a right-sided center back with Davies and Buchanan playing as the wingbacks and complement Jonathan David. We've seen the 3 of them work well together in the past for Canada. Play Kamal with Bombito and Cornelius as a center back. Once again, he's an outlet as a passing lane and can maintain possession. He's a center back with good distribution on him. Or if we want to go with Johnston instead of Kamal Miller, then it's still a good option, as he's played there many a times for Canada and has succeeded in that position. This also means with this kind of formation with more so wing backs in a back 3, we can stretch the pitch more whilst not leaving ourselves super exposed in the center of the park. With Davies and Buchanan, or even Liam Miller could do a job at left wing back if you wanted to push Davies into a more free role like he did under Herbin a few times, especially thinking back to like the game against Mexico at the Azteca back in 2021. And obviously many more times. But with that, we'd also be taking out a striker most likely. That's personally what I think. Yes, we lose a striker, but I think it benefits us in the long run. And if you need an additional striker, guess what? You have 5 subs. You can always bring one on. Now that my Dragon's Den pitch is over and has concluded, let's talk about our two strikers. Yeah, not a great day at the office for either of them, in my opinion. First, looking at Kyle Larin, I do like Larin, but this style does not suit him. We're asking him to do too much with his feet, hold possession, and run with the ball. He's a classic 9 poacher, in my opinion, making runs, running on to through balls, splitting the defense, getting into the box, and making things happen up there. But we're asking him to play deeper and carry the ball forward, whereas I feel as though that just doesn't suit him. If you want to do that, have a guy kind of lie deeper, be good with his feet, I think you got to put in Theo Bair in for Kyle Larin. If Marsh doesn't want to use one of my 3 pitches of formation switch, of course. But he's coming off, this is Bair that I'm speaking of, he's coming off of a great season with Motherwell and is attracting some attention from English sides. He's been in the squad for all 3 of Marsh's games so far, but has yet to feature. Why bring him if you're not going to give him an opportunity? And we're searching for goals anyways. That's just a thought. I would be very surprised if Bair doesn't at least feature in this tournament. It just depends on how much of a capacity he has. Now, looking at Larin's strike partner, Jonathan David. David is probably in that rung below the best strikers in the world for me, in that level of like Hoyland's, Jackson's, Jesus, but below like a Lewandowski, Haaland, Kane, and others. But he isn't currently showing it for Canada, and we need him to. I haven't been impressed with him on an international level since probably before the 2022 World Cup, and most definitely at that tournament and since it. He's quality, and he has a lot to his overall game. Like Larin, we're asking him to play deeper, and it's just not working out because we have so many guys to play deep, and we spring a counter. There's no options in the final third. The problem is, as well, is when David does get into a good position, he doesn't finish his dinner. He had a free header in the second half when it was 1-0, and he fluffed his lines, putting the header way off target. As a striker, that is not getting many opportunities in a game. In my opinion, you have to put those away, and it bites you as it did for us. That 1-1 could change the game. You never know. Obviously, he's not the only one that missed headers. Estacio, I think, should have also put his header away in the first half, and I think Larin scuffed his lines on a beautiful Alistair Johnston cross in. So, like I said, I'm not putting this all on David. I think everybody as a whole needs to finish their dinner better, but just looking at David and Larin as our 2 strikers, you need them to capitalize on their chances. Like I said, David is a quality striker, and he falls into that camp with Buchanan and Davies of we as a country expect more from him because we know his quality. We do. Like I said, for Buchanan and David, it's different than Davies, but the expectation is different for them compared to a lot of our other players, in my opinion. But yeah, we have our number 1 and 2 guys for our top international goal scorers on the men's side of it, at least, that we need more. We just need to put these chances away. And whether it's a formation change, a personnel change, or just these guys working on finishing, something needs to be done because, like I said, these chances are biting us. We've gone 3 games now under Marsh without a goal. We need to get a goal. We need to get a goal. You can't win a game without not getting a goal. And yeah, our strikers just need to finish their dinner, but they also need to be set up in a way that they have more opportunity to do so. And now looking at our subs, we brought in Jacob Schaffelberg, Richie Larea, Jonathan Osorio, and Russell Rowe. First looking at Schaffelberg, who I thought had the greatest impact and the most time on the pitch of our subs. There's been news today of a Spanish second-tier side looking at him, as well as Belgian and Dutch teams. So maybe him and Cornelius can link up in the Eredivisie. It makes sense as he's starting to show his potential. I thought there was an instant improvement when Schaffelberg came on for Buchanan. Schaffelberg is just a ball of energy and just offers pure chaos, in my opinion, when he comes in. Argentina couldn't handle his speed. They didn't know his next move. He was making great runs and was really pressing and challenging the Argentinian back line as well as the keeper. Like I said, they weren't expecting him, and I think that really benefited him. And it's just a shame that he we didn't really reap the rewards of that. Our other subs, I don't really have much of an opinion on. They didn't get much of a chance to impact the game. Osorio, Russell Rowe, and Larea would all been chomping at the bit to get into this game, and probably much earlier than they would have wanted to. You know, they only got 5 to 10 minutes. That's not a ton of time to impact a game, especially against a team such as Argentina. It's asking a lot of your boys to come in cold and expect them to salvage something at that point in that late of the game against a side quite like Argentina. So, you know, I would say to maybe make these substitutions a bit earlier, because that whole game we were crawling out for an extra midfielder, and it was suited to Richie Larea as well. We needed a midfielder, like I said a million times. We were overrunning the midfield. We needed another one. And Argentina is a very, very chippy team, and that suits Larea so well. Get him on the ball, and he's going to get you fouls. He's going to get you free kicks in good positions, perhaps even a penalty. Definitely some cards for the opposing team. Probably one for himself, too, if we're being honest. But, yeah, 5 to 10 minutes is not enough time to do that, in my opinion. And lastly, I think overall we missed a creative playmaker like a Junior Hoylett. And I'm not saying we win every game with him in there, but he is a missed player for us with his quality and capability. We do miss him. He's class. I know it's no one's fault. He pulled out of the squad with an injury, but still it is a miss. And I also do think we miss Adekubi as a left back option. Once again, I think he kind of frees Davies to be a bit more free, and he doesn't have to carry such a load in this Canada squad when Adekubi's in. But once again, no one's fault. He is injured. I do expect him, when he is healthy, to be back in the squad. And Hoylett, once again, I would keep calling him until the day he decides to hang up the boots. No one in our squad can do what he does, and he is one of the best players that we've produced in a long time, if we're being honest. Now, looking ahead to our next game against Peru, we need a win. If we don't win, we're going to be done with having played 2 games with 0 points and all but eliminated. Even a draw is asking a lot going into our final game against Chile, where we're talking about learning lessons with this Canadian program. We have to implement those lessons then against Peru. We need to change what wasn't working and keep what was. That's what learning lessons is, not just emptily saying and promising, well, we're learning lessons, but persist with the same things. We need to win against Peru, and it has to be a good performance. We need the signs of these lessons being learned, and we need to see them against Peru. It will be no easy feat, but it can be done. We have the talent. We can do it. It's great to get these moral victories of saying we could hang with Argentina, Belgium, France. But I also think it's fair to start asking questions of maybe we should start getting results, though. At what point do we expect to win these games instead of just hoping we hang in there? Now, I'm not saying, well, we shouldn't be proud of this team and we should start expecting a World Cup win in 2034, but I think we have to start expecting to get something from these games if we really want to be taken seriously on the world stage, as we are so desperately yearning for, and as Canadian fans have seen, we can go. We're putting the world on notice, but you have to show up. It's good to show up and play better than people expected you against top tier teams, but eventually you have to get the results as well. We started doing it in CONCACAF. People sat up. They took notice. Mexico and the USA didn't see us coming, so we have to start doing it with teams that are top class. We are in a golden generation for Canadian football, and to me, that is the next step in our progress. We've shown we belong. Now we have to show that we can upset the Giants. With all of that being said, that does bring to a close this breakdown of Canada's performance against the world champs and defending Copa champs Argentina. I do hope you enjoyed. Please do keep listening to the Maple Footy Podcast. We're only getting better. Reach out to me on Instagram at @officialsamlittle. Let me know what you're thinking of Marsh's Canada and how well you think we're going to fare against Peru and Chile. Do you think we're going to get out of the group? Do you think we're going to put in a good performance against Peru and or Chile? Do you think that Our boys are already half packed up. What do you think? I'm going to cover those games once they're played, along with my Euro coverage that is running simultaneously. And once again, thank you so much for devoting your time to listening to this. I know everybody does not have all the free time in the world, so even if you've devoted just this episode 5 minutes, whatever, I do appreciate it. Thank you, and until next time, cheers.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates at Official Sam Little on Instagram, where I am most active. And until next time, live, laugh, little.